All right, To a Mouse by Robert Burns, starting with line 1. Small, crafty, cowering, timorous little beast, oh, what a panic is in your little breast. You need not start away so hasty with argumentative chatter. I would be loath to run and chase you with murdering plowstaff. I'm truly sorry man's dominion has broken nature's social union and justifies that ill opinion which makes you startle at me, your poor earthborn companion and fellow mortal. I doubt not sometimes, but you may steal. What then, poor little beast? You must live. An odd ear and 24 sheaves is a small request. I will get a blessing with what is left and never miss it. Your small house, too, in ruin. Its feeble walls the winds are scattering, and nothing now to build a new one. Of course, grass green and bleak December winds coming, both bitter and keen. You saw the fields laid bare and wasted, and weary winter coming fast, and cozy here beneath the blast you thought to dwell. Till crash, the cruel plow passed out through your cell. That small bit heap of leaves and stubble has cost you many a weary nibble. Now you are turned out for all your trouble, without house or holding, to endure the winter's sleety dribble and hoarfrost cold. But little mouse, you are not alone. In proving foresight may be vain. The best laid schemes of mice and men go often awry, and leave us nothing but grief and pain for promised joy. Still you are blessed compared with me. The present only touches you. But oh, I backward cast my eye on prospects dreary, and forward though I cannot see, I guess in fear. Like I told you, John Steinbeck took this poem, transferred it, translated it into a full novel. Let's break it down so we see what Steinbeck was getting at in his novel. Okay. Let's go to the first stanza. Start out with a description of what is in the title, a mouse. It's To a Mouse. The dialogue, the conversation, the interaction is between the author and a little mouse. He describes the mouse in line 1. He says, small, crafty, cowering, timorous little beast. He's frightened. He's easily panicked. He's uneasy. He's nervous. But he tries to reassure the mouse in line 3. He says, you need not start away so hasty. You don't need to go away so rapidly. Stay here. I'm your friend. He says, with argumentative chatter, you don't need to argue with me. I'm not here to argue with you or debate or quarrel. I'm here for you. He says, I would be, in the next line, he said, I would be loath to run and chase you. And he says, with murdering plowstaff, I'm not going to hunt you down. I'm not your enemy. I'm not going to hurt you. He's not saying that the mouse is not going to be hurt, because later we find out there's sudden danger for the mouse in his house. But the author here says, I'm not going to hurt you. You don't have to fear me. But there is something you have to fear. Second stanza, he says, I'm truly sorry for man's dominion. In other words, I'm sorry that man has control. I'm sorry that there is domination that man has over you. But he says that in that dominion, that control, that domination that man has over the animal, or that tiny little beast, I should say, says it makes him startle, the mouse. But look, he kind of reassures him again at the end of that second stanza. It makes you startle at me, your poor earthborn companion, and fellow what? Fellow mortal. In other words, even though I might, in these social ranks, the way the social union works, even though I have dominion over you and I have control over you, the way the ranks work out, I'm still your fellow mortal. I'm still a creation. I'm still a creature. And I too, just like you, little mouse, will one day breathe my last. So he's trying to reassure the mouse, I'm your friend, I'm your fellow mortal, I'm your companion. You don't have to run from me. I'm not going to kill you with the plow staff. I'm not going to hunt you. Of mice and men. We're going to skip the third stanza, go to the fourth one with me towards the bottom, page 1. He gives a description of what has happened to the mouse's house. Your small house too, in what?
Ruin.
In ruin, and because of what? Okay, the weather, and what else?
It was feeble. It was like dilapidated, I would say.
Yeah, look at the fifth stanza. It's actually right on that second page, the first line. It says, till crash, the cruel what passed through? Is a plow. A plow drove through, plowed through his little home. And again, in the fourth stanza, consequently, because of the plow, because of the thing that drove through the nest, which was his home, right? It is in ruin. It says its feeble walls, the winds are scattering. It's not built up. It's not solid. It's being wiped away. It's scattered. And now he says the only thing left, nothing now, but to build a new one, to start all over, the whole process once again. And why does he say that? At the end of that fourth stanza, he says, bleak December winds coming, cold, miserable, rough winter ahead, and you don't have a house. He says, he adds to that December description, he says, both bitter and keen are the winds that are to come. Next stanza, the fifth one, we've already looked a little bit at the plow, but he says, we get a little picture of what the mouse saw before the destruction, right? Look at the beginning of the fifth stanza. You saw the fields laid bare and wasted. In other words, you saw a perfect building spot. You saw a perfect location to build this nest, to establish a home, maybe to have a family, maybe to have a future. A plan, a dream, right? This open field where no one was. You saw the fields laid bare and wasted. And again, that winter was coming fast, and it looked cozy here beneath the blast. Like you could be warm, you could be safe, you could have shelter, a refuge. He says you thought to dwell. In other words, you had a plan to dwell here. You had a plan to settle. It was your vision, it was your dream to be cozy here prior to this winter coming upon. Doesn't that sound familiar to our text? Curly's wife had a plan of being in pictures, right? Of being in Hollywood. That was her dream. But she couldn't even get anybody to talk to her, not even her own husband. Crooks, towards the end of the novel, gets a glimpse of the dream, gets a glimpse of the plan. Candy has this dream. Obviously, Lenny has this dream of tending the rabbits, living on the fat of the land. And George, too, even captures this dream. He has plans to dwell in a place. There's schemes, there's plans. Just like this little mouse. But then, again, as we've already looked at towards the end of that fifth stanza, on that second page, till crash, the cruel plow passed out through your cell, completely destroying the poor little mouse's home, his nest, with winter fast approaching. 6th stanza, he says, that small bit heap of leaves and stubble has cost you many a weary nibble. He's had to take a lot of time. There's been a lot of provision. There's been a lot of steps to build this nest. And then look at that 3rd line of the 6th stanza. He says, now you are turned out for all your trouble. In other words, the author is saying all that work, all that provision, all that planning, to no avail. It's done in vain because now you don't have a home. Your plans are ruined, destroyed. He says, without house or holding to endure the winter's sleety dribble and hoar frost cold. Again, this winter is fast approaching, and the poor little mouse doesn't have a home. And so this poem begs us to ask the question, is this just something that happens to a poor little mouse? Yeah, you already answered. Rhetorically, no. We might think, though, and Robert Burns describes the social rank, the social union. Is it just a poor little mouse that bad things happen to? And he kind of answers that in the 7th stanza, and you guys already answered it by saying no. He says, but little mouse, you are not alone in proving foresight. Foresight means anticipation. It means planning. He says in proving that foresight may be vain. Okay? You're not alone in making these plans. You're not alone in making these provisions and it not coming to pass. Look, this is what sums up of Mice and Men. This is what sums up the text as a whole. Look at the next line. The best laid schemes of mice and men go often awry. Think about the dreams that people have. Think about the plans, the ambitions that they have schemed up. According to Robert Burns, through this analogy of the mouse, through this illustration of the mouse and his home being destroyed, Robert Burns says the best laid schemes, whether it's a mice, whether it's a mouse, whether it's a man, a fellow mortal, a companion, the best laid schemes often, not all the time, but a lot of times our plans, our provisions, the things that we think are going to happen, often it goes awry. It goes astray. It goes off course. Not exactly how we planned it to go. And according to Robert Burns here, and leave us nothing but grief and pain for promised joy. But he stops. It's not all doom and gloom for the mouse. Robert Burns in this poem is actually a little bit jealous about the situation that the mouse is in. Look at that last stanza. He even calls the mouse blessed. He says, look, still you are blessed compared with me. Now you might be wondering, why is he saying that the mouse would be blessed? He just lost his house. Winter storms are coming. Winter wind is coming. Why in the world would he be considering the mouse to be blessed?
Because the storm was time to get ready, maybe, or because he's not able to hide that food or make shelter that he's in.
Oh, okay. So maybe he can make the shelter a little bit quicker, or maybe he still has time to do it again. Good guess. Let's see if it reigns true. So he says, still you are blessed compared with me, and then he's about to explain why the mouse is more blessed than him, at this moment anyway. That next line he says, the present only touches you. In other words, you've already gone through your trial. You've already gone through your plans being altered or being set off course. But me, on the other hand, look at the next line, but I backward cast my eye. In other words, Robert Burns gives this picture of someone talking to a mouse saying, you're blessed because your trial's already happened. Your tribulation has already occurred. But me, I'm looking around saying, uh-oh, what's going to happen to me next? Like, you've already had your trial. You've already had your tribulation. When is my trial, when is my trouble going to come? I wish I was you. I wish I had my trial already out of the way. But now I'm looking around saying, how are my plans going to be unaltered? How are my plans going to be altered? How are my plans and provisions going to go awry? So he says, I backward cast my eye on prospects dreary prospects, dreary situations that are to come. And then he says, and forward, though I cannot see, I guess and fear. I, on the other hand, have to wait in dread for the unexpected to happen. I know it's inevitable. I know it's going to happen. I know there's going to be some sort of trouble in my life. I don't know where. I don't know when. But I know it's going to happen. It's like Robert Burns is saying, although I glance into my future and don't know how my plans will be destroyed, I can only imagine, and imagine I will, in a sense of fear. In a sense of fear. So John Steinbeck takes this poem, in particular, the line that says, the best laid schemes of mice and men go often awry. He paints this picture with Crooks, with Candy, with George, with Lenny, even with Curly's wife. They all have these plans, they all have these provisions, they all have these dreams. Oftentimes, not always. But the plans that we have for ourselves, the plans that we have for our lives, often it goes awry. All right. So with that being said, what I want you to do right now is I want you to read this critical analysis of To a Mouse, and this will be the last thing we do